Hey everybody, Mark Agnesi here for Gibson Guitars, and today I'm excited to bring to you the all-new Gibson SG Standard 61. This guitar is available in 3 different versions, which is the first time we've ever done that. I'm holding the version that's kind of more like the 63, 64 kind of George Harrison spec version with the long Maestro vibrola. We're also doing the guitar the way it originally shipped in 61, with of course the sideways wiggle stick, which is so rad. And those of you who don't like the tremolo or vibrola system, we're also offering it with just the straight up stop tailpiece Tune-O-Matic, like the SG Standards you've come to know over the last few decades that Gibson has been doing. But yeah, we brought it back to the original thing. This was originally the Les Paul SG, for those of you who don't know. Once we stopped making the Les Paul body in 1960, we start to transition into this double-horned cutaway body in 61. But all these guitars, especially the standards, were Les Paul SG Standards up until kind of early 1963. To avoid any confusion, for those who don't know, we're just referring to this guitar as the SG Standard 61. And what's SG stand for? Solid guitar. And we mean that literally and figuratively, man. These are some of the most solid guitars that we ever made. They're the sound of the 1960s. So let's talk about the sound. All of these guitars are going to feature our 61 R and T pickups, respectively. Rhythm for the neck, treble for the bridge. Now these are going to use Alnico 5 magnets, which are kind of the magnets you know traditionally and associate with the 1960s. A little bit more output, a little bit more bite. They really, really cut. Different than the Alnico 2 magnets of the 1950s. Other things that we're doing, like we're doing across the original collection of guitars, all of these guitars feature hand-soldered CTS 500K audio taper pots. What's the big deal with that? Well, in audio taper pots, every one of those numbers sounds like those numbers. The taper on the pot fades, so when you're at 10, it's 10. When you're at 7, it sounds like 7. And at 5, it sounds like 5. At 3, it sounds like 3. Nothing worse than rolling down the volume and having it still sound like 10 and just go straight to off, which a lot of pots do, you know? You go from off to full blast. These things taper through the range so you can get all of the different distinct tones out of each one of these pickups that happens when you start to roll that volume back, where you start to clean up the amp a little bit and you start to get those brilliant clean tones on the in-between sounds. The other thing we're doing, orange drop capacitors in all of these guitars. We did note that we're doing it all 3 ways, all 3 versions. All 3 versions are going to be finished in this classic vintage cherry finish that allows you to see all of that beautiful grain of the mahogany showing through, just like the classics. Original 5-ply teardrop shaped pickguard. We have bound rosewood fingerboard trapezoid inlays, of course the iconic SG crown on the headstock, and a set of Clusson deluxe tuners with the green keystone buttons on all of these guitars around the spectrum. It's the sound of the 60s, you guys. All of your favorite records from that era, most of them were cut on one of these guitars. SG means more than just solid guitar. It means it's a solid guitar. From the original collection at Gibson. Check one out at your dealer now. It's the SG Standard 1961.